Another week, and it's another edition of the Power 10. This time we're going to be talking about IGLs, the most time-resilient role, I think, when we do these sort of power rankings. They get a lot of credit for what they've done in the past in a way that riflers and AWPers really can't when it comes to things like power rankings. We are, of course, going to be factoring in recent results, recent form, how they've been calling, how their teams have been playing, but they will get more leniency and more credit for things done in the past than you'd expect from those other lists. Before we get into it, be sure to subscribe, like, become a member if you want to see more content and access to a bunch of special perks. But yeah, at number 10, it's JT, who's done an incredible job keeping complexity afloat despite inferior pieces and realistically having to pick up some of the brunt of the fragging on his own back. Whilst Complexity have not been some consistent playoff performer, constantly taking a crack at making top 8 at every event, they've at least picked up wins at the majority of big events they've played this year and had a top 4 finish in Bucharest, which is impressive in and of itself. So far, the major's been going in a pretty mixed direction, I think is the fair way to put it. They're down 1-2 right now, but this is without Holzerk, who's been by far their second best player. He's been a key part of what's allowed them to win games. So JT kind of dealt a rough hand in the major so far, holding on for now. Hopefully we can see them fight through a little bit more. But yeah, all in all, this recovery post the Liege, making things work with Nyx and with Sixy, has been fairly impressive. JT himself taking a bit of the fragging load on his back. I think he deserves a lot of credit for this. Hopefully he can push on and maybe even get a couple upgrades going in the sort of next few months to come and build something special on Complexity once again. Linus at number 9 and dropping 3 spots from the last time we did this list just because I think I got a little overexcited. I think I shoved him way up there. I was so excited after the Sango run, how things started with Heroic, and the last time we did this I think I was just being a bit too optimistic. But overall, he still has been a very strong IGL. 9th in the world, I think right now is an amazing place to be. He's calling a really strong game. This team is playing some of the most fun CS to watch with strong mid rounds, really active CT sides, and he puts himself into sort of playmaking positions and does a decent job of keeping up the fragging here and there. So everything you'd want from an IGL right now, Linus is doing very strongly. Deserves a lot of credit, especially for his age. But yeah, they've been really crushing it recently with these LAN returns. Bit of a struggle at the start of the year to really get consistent on LAN, so I'm really happy to see this side of the team, especially with his own performances ticking up and also getting the most out of players like xCloud, players like Youngstar in these scenarios, in these tougher environments. The major so far is going brilliantly. They're up, I think, a map against FlyQuest as I'm recording, or about to be. So really awesome to see that. Excited to see how Heroic continue to grow and use these pieces. And in the post-Saw, post-Sampaius landscape, it's going to be interesting to see how much of their game plan continues to work and continues to be effective despite the lack of that coach. Linus' Heroic are really fun to watch, a promising team. I hope this continues. At number 8, and dropping 5 spots, is FaZe, who this year have been a fucking disaster. There's no two ways to put it. They did have an okay sort of start with Simple since bringing him in, but that's not really enough to save Carrigan's reputation right now. He's been having a mare. Individually, it's been one of his, well, it's been a classic Carrigan year, really, but overall, the team has not been called particularly well, in my opinion, either. They've looked desperate, going back to certain strats time and time again, despite a lack of effectiveness. There's not been the same sort of creativity, flair, mid-round adjustments. A lot of things you'd like to see from Carrigan, expect him to be able to deliver on. He's not been delivering. So FaZe Clan have taken a dive, and Carrigan's taking a dive with them in terms of his position in these rankings. Number 8, still okay, and his pedigree is holding him really within this space, because there's some young guys who I'm going to have in the honourable mentions, some guys making returns to Tier 1 play, who have probably been more impressive in the limited exposure we've had to them. But his pedigree keeps him here. Carrigan, though, really struggling. A not so strong year for FaZe Clan. At number 7, and a lot of the same things can be repeated for this team, it's Alexi B. His Na'Vi side have really struggled. He's dropped down 6 spots since last time we did this list. He was atop of the list at the start of this year. Now he's down here at number 7. They've got a lot of things to figure out. Alexi B, he has to take a slide because he's really at the head of this really stale roster. He's not finding his own impact. He's not figuring out ways to get the most out of these players. I mean, the one thing really holding him in place, or still leaving him with some due credit, is the fact that he has no real star on his team. You know, Carrigan at least has Frozen. Currently, he has absolutely no one on Na'Vi stepping up and producing time and time again. We want to say that Bit's going to be a superstar. JL's that consistent rock 4th player on the team who can really deliver when times are tough. Immer's finding these sorts of second caller lurker, high impact fragger sort of maps where you can really see his dominance. But overall, it really comes down to one full on a rifle sometimes is okay. Na'Vi have just been under par this entire year, and I think LXCB does have to take some of the blame for that. Some of it does lie with Blade, some of it lies with the individuals, but LXCB just hasn't been good enough. It's really not looking strong for Na'Vi right now. This major could turn everything around the same way it did last year, when they were a failing, underperforming roster with the exact same pieces, but we'll see what comes of it. I doubt JL's going to have another miracle run in him. So yeah, LXCB back in the struggle right now. And number 6 is Kingt, and most IGLs with a top 5 team, a big event win, and a roster looking primed to upset Vitality potentially in a best of 3 and go and win this major. Though most IGLs in that situation would get more credit, but Kingt realistically has got a problem of abundance. He has m0NESY and NiKo playing great CS. m0NESY especially has been rolling back into form, trying to get his numbers up. He's been looking a lot stronger. His AWP numbers specifically have really taken a big leap. This is a very strong roster right now. TeSS finds his impact. Magus hasn't even been that weak, really. We want to criticize him, but he's had some really strong performances in key games recently. Now, Kingt obviously does do a little bit of that fragging style of IGL. He does contribute on that side, but he's nowhere near strong enough to really be considered a key part of this roster's fragging. I'm going to keep him down here at number 6. He's jumped up 4 spots from the last time we saw him. But this is a roster that's doing a lot of the work for him, especially in the mid-rounds when you consider who's on this roster. So Kingt's still a lot to prove, but if they keep winning, if they continue to climb up the rankings, potentially even get that upset win at the major, he's not going to care that he's not considered the best IGL in the world if he's lifting that trophy. At number 5, it's Swede, who has managed to really prove that he's not a terrible IGL, it just didn't work out in MOUZ towards the end. This Liquid side has seen a small uptick in performance, a playoff appearance in Melbourne, a win over FaZe, which by itself isn't much, but at least is something considering how they performed previously at events prior to his arrival. This has been a slight turnaround that's worth noting and worth giving credit to Swede for. Now, a lot of his ranking here is based on, prior pedigree, the fact that probably there were some more internal issues at MOUZ, not just his calling that was a problem. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Liquid. I've liked the way they've played, and that's why I'm going to put him up here at number 5. It might be a bit of an overreaction, a bit generous, I think, to have him this high in a lot of people's minds, but for me, Swede is my prototypical modern IGL. I want him up here as soon as his team starts playing well, and they have been. So here he is at number 5. Maybe a bit of personal bias, but that's okay, it's my list. At number 4, and completing the win-win scenario that was Swede leaving and Spinks coming into MOUZ, is Brolan. He really has done a great job of getting the most out of this team. On CT sides, very Torgy-led. T sides, Xerxon making a lot of big plays and letting Spinks really float and do what he needs to do to find his impact. I think Brolan's done a great job of inserting himself in the right positions as well, transitioning into that sort of supportive, self-sacrificial IGL who just kind of creates space for everyone else, dies, and gets the right call in place just off the info he receives. Brolan's done a great job of that, and this team are one of the others who actually have a chance potentially to go and win this major. Now, the last time they faced Vitality, they really struggled, so maybe this ain't quite it, but I've got good feelings about this MOUZ roster. Even if they don't go and win this major, they're going to be competitive the rest of the year, and that's despite, having their struggles and not having a true superstar player in their midst. At number 3, Blitz. He's still leading that young horde, and he's still fragging like absolutely no other IGL can. He's an amazing piece of value, just as an individual, not just as a caller, but the fact that he's a caller who's able to close rounds, frag out the way he does. He's just a 2-for-1 in terms of what you need on a top Counter-Strike team. Now the Mongols' style of play especially emphasizes that. They're not as trade-heavy as a lot of other teams are. There are more one-up plays. Individuals have to be able to hit their shots. Blitz is not exempt from that, and clearly, well, he's more than capable of keeping pace with his other young headshot machines. This team is only a few tweaks, a few potential clutch moments away from consistently making grand finals, let alone just being in playoffs. They've had a few struggles, I think, in terms of at LAN, in front of a big stage, playing a big-name opponent, keeping their composure and playing their own game. If they get that right, they could be flying up in the scene. And with his contributions being so significant, he'll get a lot of that credit. So potentially Blitz is going to be a player on the rise if Mongols figure it out this year. We'll see if they end up sticking around with this roster for much longer if they keep disappointing, but given their age, I'd give them still a lot of leeway. Number 2, the oft-maligned Chopper deserves a good amount of criticism he receives. I'm going to be honest, his fragging has been subpar. even by IGL standards. And if you look at the profile, you look at the fights he's taking, it's not even like he's being that super self-sacrificial, you know, that prototype, that sort of IGL we expect to see time and time again. You know, the explanation for the low fragging numbers. We don't see a lot of that from Chopper, but he still can't get his numbers up. All that being said, the team is incredibly effective, and the team has been playing insanely well recently, and a lot of it also is coming in 4v5s, where I think overall there's something like a 38% win rate in 4v5s over the last few events, and on T side that goes up to 40. They just don't need to have the full squad alive to go and win rounds. Chopper sometimes dying for info rather than to actually get traded, potentially using his pieces in a very creative way, but getting the most out of them. And that's all the job really entails as an IGL, is to win the rounds at the end of the day. And he's been doing it, even whilst lacking the firepower across the depth of his team. The firepower he does have, super concentrated, found within 2 players, although 1 especially, and still delivering result after result. Those weak points that are apparent to everyone to see, like, you know, you're looking at this team, like, there's clearly weak places. This roster doesn't have good pieces everywhere. It doesn't matter. He's got the fraggers set up in the right moments to get the right timings, take the right fights, and they win map after map after map. Time for some honorable mentions quickly. Just a few names who are close to making this list, and honestly, with a little more time, a few more reps potentially this year, could make it in here. ZTR was the hardest player to not include, but I felt like giving JT the edge slightly. I think JT's shown more recently, especially with the changes his team's gone through, having to cut his coach as well. He's been resilient. He's been performing. I think JT deserved that place just above ZTR. I think ZTR would be my number 11. Maka often goes under the radar. Really is a strong fragging IGL. Gets a lot of buy-in from his players. A great leader. Hooksy did a lot with Astralis, despite having only a tiny window to show himself off in. He's primed to receive a call-up into another team, potentially fill in some gaps on someone who's like tier 1.5, maybe even borderline tier 2, but with the right IGL, could make a push into tier 1. I think Hooksy's primed for that spot if a roster takes the risk. And then finally Snappy, who I think is a no-brainer, top 10 IGL in the world. In theory, if I was just going off of my opinion, he'd probably be in the top 5. He's active, he's snappy, he'd be top 5, but they just haven't played a lot of big events, nowhere near enough. I'm sure he will be back up to those sorts of levels within the next few months. It's probably towards the start of next season when NIP start getting those invites again. He's just got a great style, great ability to lead. I'm sure he'll be here soon. And number 1, apEX, ben voilà, on va pas compliquer les choses non plus. He's been everything. He's got the best team in the world. He's been playing some of the best CS as a team especially, and he's been fragging along with that incredibly well. He's been outstanding on his rifle. In the CT spots, he's putting up star-like numbers. He's the 3rd highest CT rated player on CT for Vitality. That's absurd from an IGL, and I know he does get some more favourable spots, but he's delivering, and that's the part you don't really expect. On the T side, he's got great entry numbers, but all round as well, he's got great util numbers. He leads the entire scene in flash assists right now, and so he's doing a lot of the connective tissue work that really allows Vitality to tick. I think apEX has been outstanding, and I don't see anyone dethroning this guy anytime soon. He's calling great, fragging great, using great util. What more could this guy possibly do? I find it hard to see that there could be anything he can do further. This has been apEX's year, as much as it's been ZywOo's. He's dominant, he's number 1. And of course, he rounds off the list. But alright, if you enjoyed, leave a like. Leave a comment, some of your thoughts on any of these positions, placements, who you might have swapped around. Sub if you want to see more content. Remember that members get access to a bunch more content, some content early, the right to vote, a number of little perks. So please, join up if you want to be a supporter of my work and this channel. But alright, we'll see you next week. Well, hopefully see you before then for other content, but this show will be back next week. Goodbye.